In the endless sea of stars, the human race was only a memory. Centuries had passed since Earth burned in silence, destroyed during the Great Collapse. A war humans had started but never finished. Every world once touched by mankind was now abandoned or buried under alien rule. Yet, somewhere in the dark corners of the galaxy, one human still lived. Her name was Alara Quinn. She was not a soldier or a scientist, just a scavenger, drifting alone on a broken cargo ship called the Sparrow. Her home was made of steel walls, cracked lights, and the hum of old engines. Every day she searched for scraps of ancient human tech, hoping to trade them for food and fuel. For Alara, the galaxy was not a place of wonder. It was a graveyard. One day, while exploring a forgotten asteroid belt near the star Zorath 9, her sensors caught something unusual, a signal, faint but steady. It repeated in old Terran code. Her heart pounded. "Impossible," she whispered. "No one uses human code anymore." She adjusted her receiver, tracing the signal. It came from deep inside the asteroid cluster, an area known to be under Imperial control, the territory of the alien Xylar Dominion. The Xylar were tall, scaled beings with crystalline eyes and sharp intellect. Their empire stretched across hundreds of worlds. They had once fought against humanity and then won. If they found her, she would be executed instantly. But curiosity was stronger than fear. "I have to know," she muttered, tightening her gloves. She set a course toward the signal. The Sparrow slipped between the massive rocks like a ghost. Her radar flickered with static. The closer she flew, the stronger the signal became, until her screen showed the source, a massive ancient warship hidden within the asteroids. Its hull bore the old emblem of the Terran Defense Fleet. Her breath caught. A human warship. Still here? She docked the Sparrow and stepped into the silent giant. The air inside was stale but breathable. Lights flickered dimly, powered by a dying reactor. Everywhere she looked, dust covered the steel floors. Then she saw them. Frozen shapes in broken cryopods. Human bodies. Soldiers. Scientists. All dead. All except one pod that still glowed faint blue. Her fingers trembled as she wiped the frost from the glass. Inside lay a man, his face peaceful, his chest rising slowly. A living human. The display read, "Name Commander Aiden Holt, status cryosleep, stable year." 2751. Alara gasped. "You've been asleep for 300 years. Suddenly alarms blared through the ship. Red lights flashed. The computer voice spoke in an alien language. Xylar. "Unauthorized presence detected," it warned. Alara cursed. No. Outside the hull, bright blue lights appeared. Xylar patrol ships. They had found her. She ran back to the control room, trying to undock the Sparrow, but the warship systems locked her inside. There was no escape. Then she looked back at the cryopod. If she was going to die, she would not die alone. She pressed the emergency release. Steam burst from the chamber. The man inside coughed, gasping for air. His eyes, sharp and green, opened for the first time in centuries. What happened?" he whispered weakly. Alara grabbed his arm. "No time to explain. Xylar patrols are coming." He blinked in confusion, then saw the alien ships closing in. His instincts woke up. "Where's the command deck?" "This way," she shouted. They stumbled through the corridors, the sound of metal boots echoing behind them. Alien soldiers had boarded. Alara led the way, her small blaster shaking in her hand. Commander Holt moved with the discipline of an old soldier, despite the weakness in his limbs. When they reached the command deck, Holt looked around. "Most systems are dead, but maybe I can bring the defense grid online." Alara stared at him. "You know how to do that?" He gave a faint smile. "I built this ship." While Holt worked the ancient controls, Alara fired at the doors to slow the aliens. The ship's computer buzzed to life. "Defense turrets active," Holt said, his voice steady now. Outside, the warship's hidden cannons glowed and fired. Blue energy blasts tore through the Xylar patrols. The asteroid field lit up with explosions. Alara grinned. "You're crazy." "But I like it." The battle didn't last long. The last Xylar ship exploded in a ball of fire and silence returned. But Holt didn't relax. His expression grew grim. "They'll send more soon." "We need to leave." Alara pointed at the dying engines. "This ship can't move. It's too damaged." "Then we fix it," he said simply. Hours later, the two worked side by side. repairing power lines, sealing air leaks, and restoring fuel systems. As they worked, they talked. Holt told her about the war, how humanity had refused to surrender, even when the Xylar bombed Earth. "We were outnumbered, outgunned, but we fought until the end," he said quietly. Ilara listened, fascinated. "I grew up hearing the Xylar say humans were violent monsters. That's all their history books ever told." He looked at her with a tired smile. "Maybe we were monsters. Or maybe we were just human." Something in his eyes made her believe the latter. Just as they managed to power the main drive, a deep voice echoed through the radio, smooth, calm, and filled with authority. "This is Emperor Kale of the Xylar Dominion. Identify yourself." Ilara froze. The Emperor himself? Holt took the microphone. "This is Commander Aiden Holt of the Terran Defense Fleet. I demand you leave this area." A pause. Then a low laugh. "A human commander? Impossible. Your kind is extinct." "Not yet," Holt replied coldly. Kale's tone shifted. "You have attacked Imperial ships and destroyed Xylar soldiers. Surrender, and I might spare the woman with you." Holt's jaw tightened. "We will not surrender." "Then prepare to die, human," the Emperor said before cutting the channel. Ilara's hands shook. "You just challenged the Emperor of the galaxy." Holt looked at the stars ahead. "Then we'll remind him what humans can do." He turned to her. "Get to the Sparrow. I'll cover you." "No," she said firmly. "If you stay, I stay." For a moment he met her eyes, a spark of trust forming between two survivors of different times. Then he nodded. "All right, partner. Let's show them." From the darkness of space, massive ships began to emerge, sleek, silver, and deadly. The Xylar fleet had arrived. At its center was a colossal vessel, shaped like a blade, the Emperor's flagship. Ilara whispered, "We can't win against that." Holt's expression was calm, almost defiant. "Maybe not, but we can make them remember us." He set the warship's reactor to overload, not to destroy the enemy, but to create a powerful shockwave that could cripple their sensors. Once it blows, they'll be blind for a few minutes, he explained. "That's your chance to escape." "But what about you?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "I've already been asleep for 300 years. Maybe it's time I wake the galaxy up." Before she could argue, he pushed her toward the Sparrow. "Go, Ilara. Humanity deserves at least one survivor." Tears filled her eyes as she climbed aboard. The ship undocked, engines burning bright. From the viewport, she saw the old Terran warship flare like a small sun. The explosion spread, tearing through the darkness, blinding the Xylar fleet. Her radio crackled one last time. Holt's voice, calm and strong. "Tell them, humans still fight." Then silence. Ilara's ship vanished into hyperspace. Behind her, the stars burned with the light of one man's defiance, a message to an empire that thought humanity was gone. But in the heart of Emperor Kale's flagship, something unexpected stirred. The Emperor stood before his viewing window, watching the explosion fade. His crystal blue eyes reflected both fury and fascination. "A human, alive after all this time," he murmured. "Interesting." He turned to his officers. "Find her. Bring the survivor to me." The stars blurred into silver lines as Ilara's small ship, the Sparrow, fled through hyperspace. Her hands trembled on the controls, eyes burning from exhaustion. She had lost everything again. Her supplies, her home in the asteroid belt, and now Commander Aiden Holt, the only other human she had ever seen. The old warship's explosion still flashed in her memory. "Tell them humans still fight." His last words echoed in her heart. For the first time, Ilara didn't feel like a scavenger. She felt like a witness, maybe even a messenger of something greater. Hours passed before the Sparrow dropped out of hyperspace. The ship rattled badly. Energy readings blinked red. Holt's blast had saved her, but the shockwave damaged her systems. She needed repairs soon. As she adjusted her coordinates toward a neutral trade hub, her scanner beeped. A large vessel appeared behind her, closing fast. Its metallic hull gleamed like polished glass, and its symbol, a silver claw holding a star, was unmistakable. The Xylar Dominion. Ilara's breath caught. "No, not now." The ship's voice came through her comm system. "Unidentified vessel, cut your engines and prepare for boarding." By order of Emperor Kale. Her fingers hovered over the controls. She wanted to run, but she knew she couldn't. Her engines were failing. The small ship shook as a tractor beam locked on, pulling her toward the massive alien cruiser. Within minutes, the Sparrow was swallowed by the alien hangar. When the doors opened, Elara stood tall despite the fear twisting inside her. Dozens of Xylar soldiers surrounded her. They were tall, scaled beings, their armor glowing faintly with embedded crystals. One of them stepped forward holding a sleek staff. "You will come with us," he said in a deep, mechanical voice. Elara lifted her chin. "I don't have a choice, do I?" "No," he answered simply. They led her through long metallic corridors that hummed with energy. Everything around her was bright and cold, like a machine built to rule. The air smelled faintly of ozone and minerals. Other aliens stopped to stare at her, whispering in their sharp language. To them, she was a ghost from history, a living human. At last, they reached a grand hall with high ceilings and glowing pillars of crystal light. At the end of the hall sat a tall figure on a dark throne, Emperor Kyle. Kyle's scales shimmered silver blue, and his eyes glowed faintly like stars. His presence filled the room with silent power. Unlike the soldiers, he wore no armor, only a dark robe lined with symbols of his empire. When he spoke, his voice was deep, calm, and strangely thoughtful. "So," he said slowly, "the last human comes before me." Elara met his gaze, refusing to bow. "You already killed all the others. What more do you want?" Kale studied her face. "Courage. Interesting. You speak like the old warriors of your race." "I learned from one," she said quietly. At that, Kyle's eyes narrowed slightly. "The man who destroyed my patrol fleet. He was human too?" "Yes, Commander Holt. He died so I could escape." Kale leaned back on his throne. "He destroyed 4 of my ships and disabled 2 others. For one dying race, that is impressive." "He fought for freedom," she replied. "Something your empire seems to fear." A small smile curved on Kale's face. "You think freedom is strength. Yet your species' freedom led to its extinction." Elara clenched her fists. "Maybe, but at least we chose our own fate." The Emperor regarded her for a long moment, then motioned to the guards. "Leave us." The soldiers hesitated, then obeyed. Soon the vast chamber was silent except for the hum of crystal lights. Kale rose and walked slowly toward her. "I could have you executed. My people would celebrate. But I am not certain I should," she frowned. "Why not?" "Because," he said, stopping before her, "I have ruled for 200 years and not once have I met a creature who defied me without fear. You are the last of your kind and still you stand as if your empire never fell. Tell me, human, what keeps you alive?" Elara met his glowing eyes. "Hope." He tilted his head. "Hope for what?" "For us," she said simply. "For humanity to mean something again." Kale was silent for a moment, as if weighing her words. "Perhaps that is worth studying." The Emperor ordered that Elara be kept alive and moved to a special observation chamber. It wasn't a prison cell, more like a guest room surrounded by glass walls. There was light, food, and air, but guards watched her at all times. Days passed. Scientists came to study her, not to harm, but to learn. They asked questions about human history, language, and behavior. Elara answered only what she wanted. When they brought devices she didn't understand, she refused to let them test her. Eventually, Kale himself visited again. He entered quietly, his robe flowing behind him. "You refuse to cooperate with my scholars," he said. "They treat me like a lab specimen," she replied. "I'm not here to entertain your curiosity." "Then what do you want, human?" "I want you to let me go." Kyle folded his hands behind his back. "Impossible. You are a secret the galaxy must not yet see." "Why?" she asked. "Are you afraid?" He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "I do not fear you. I fear what your existence will do to others. Humans once united galaxies against us. Even a rumor of your survival could ignite rebellion." Elara's heart raced. "Then maybe they need that hope." For a moment, Kyle seemed almost amused. "You speak like a leader, not a scavenger." "I'm not a leader," she said softly. "I'm just someone who doesn't want humanity forgotten." Kyle studied her in silence. There was no cruelty in his eyes, no, only curiosity and something she couldn't name. Later that night, Elara couldn't sleep. Through the glass wall, she could see the stars outside the ship, cold and distant. She wondered what Holt would have said if he were here. "Keep fighting, maybe. Or find a way." As she stared into space, a voice spoke quietly from the intercom. Human, are you awake? It was Kale. She hesitated, then answered. Yes. Do you know why my people destroyed yours? He asked, his tone almost reflective. Alara frowned. Because we fought back? No, because you refused to kneel. The Xylar respect order above all else. When humans refused our law, they became chaos. But I begin to wonder, maybe chaos is necessary. She turned toward the speaker. Then why rule like a god if you doubt your own order? There was a long pause. Then Kale said, perhaps because I fear what would happen without it. The connection cut. Alara sat in silence, unsure what to think. Maybe the Emperor wasn't the monster she expected, but he was still the ruler of the empire that destroyed her world. The next day, alarms blared across the ship. Red lights flashed. Guards ran through the corridors. Alara pressed her face to the glass. Outside, small ships appeared, rebel craft firing on the Emperor's cruiser. Someone was attacking the Xylar fleet. A guard rushed in and shouted to her, "I stay inside! The rebels are dangerous." Rebels? She whispered. Kyle entered moments later, his expression dark. They seek to kill me, he said. Somehow they learned of your presence. They believe the human survivor will bring the Empire down. Ilara's heart pounded. Let me help. He turned to her sharply. Help? You would save the one who imprisoned you? I don't want anyone else dying for me, she said. If I can stop this, I will. Kyle stared at her for a moment, then touched a panel on the wall. The glass barrier shimmered and vanished. Very well, human. You may help. But betray me and I will end you myself, she nodded. Fair deal. They ran together through the corridors as explosions shook the ship. For the first time, Alara saw fear in the eyes of the Xylar soldiers. The rebels had powerful weapons, and they were human-made. When they reached the command bridge, Kale took control of the defense systems. Alara assisted reading the human code embedded in the rebel signals. They're using old Terran frequencies, she said. They must have found surviving tech from Holt's warship. Kyle's claws tapped the controls. Then they have inherited your chaos, she smirked. Maybe that chaos will save us both. As they worked side by side, another explosion rocked the cruiser and the viewing window cracked. Kale shielded her instinctively, his strength holding the metal together until emergency systems sealed it. Alara looked up at him, startled. You protected me. You are too valuable to die yet, he said flatly, though his tone carried a faint warmth beneath it. The battle raged on. The rebels retreated after losing several ships, leaving the Emperor's cruiser damaged but alive. When silence finally returned, Kale turned to her. You fought well. So did you, she said, catching her breath. He studied her again, and this time his voice softened. Perhaps the galaxy has room for more than one kind of order. She tilted her head. Are you saying you'll let me go? Not yet, he replied. But soon. There is still much I must understand about you. And your kind. As he left the bridge, Alara watched him in silence. Somewhere deep inside, she felt that her fate, and the fate of what remained of humanity, was now tied to this strange Emperor. The stars outside the Emperor's flagship shimmered like distant diamonds. The galaxy felt bigger now, vast, unpredictable, and full of secrets. Alara Quinn stood at the edge of the bridge, staring at the broken pieces of the Xylar fleet after the recent rebel attack. Sparks flew from damaged consoles and the hum of the ship was uneven. Yet for the first time in her life, she didn't feel small. She had fought, she had survived, and somehow she had earned the Emperor's cautious respect. Kale, the Emperor himself, approached quietly. His presence was calm, powerful, yet somehow human in a strange way. You've grown, he said simply. Alara turned to him. I didn't have much choice. He studied the stars as if weighing countless possibilities. The rebels were only the beginning. Something far larger is coming, a force even I cannot control alone. Her brow furrowed. What do you mean? Kyle stepped closer, his crystal eyes reflecting the stars. Beyond our borders, a fleet approaches. Ships unlike anything I've seen. They destroy everything without warning. They do not negotiate. They are predators, and now they move toward us. Ilara's stomach twisted. Then we fight? Kale shook his head. Not yet. We need strategy, we need humans. It was the first time he admitted it out loud. He needed humans, not as soldiers, but as thinkers, innovators, and unpredictable creatures who could defy logic. Ilara, the last human, had proven that even one human could change the course of a battle. "I can help," she said. "I can make them fight for us. I can teach your fleets to move like humans think and not like machines." Kale considered her carefully. "Then we have no time to waste. I will allow it. Under one condition. You obey or both our races fall." Ilara nodded, determination flashing in her eyes. Agreed. They spent days preparing. Ilara worked with Xylar engineers, showing them patterns from human warfare, tactics from Earth's old battles, and innovative formations no alien mind had considered. Slowly the Xylar ships adapted. Maneuvers once impossible for them now flowed like water. Kyle observed silently, rarely speaking, but when he did, it was to challenge her ideas. She welcomed it. The dialogue between human intuition and alien precision created strategies neither race could have imagined alone. When the time came, the approaching enemy fleet, an enormous, dark, and terrifying, finally emerged from hyperspace. Thousands of ships glimmered like obsidian stars, and their movement was not chaotic. It was deliberate, cold, and deadly. Ilara's heart raced. "They're faster than anything we've ever seen." Kyle's claws tapped the console. "And more ruthless. But they have weaknesses. You will see." The battle began in silence. At first, Xylar ships followed their usual patterns, firing energy beams in broad arcs. But Ilara directed a small squadron in unpredictable human formations. Ships twisted, split, and merged, confusing the enemy sensors. Kyle watched with interest. "Impressive. Your species has an instinct for chaos," Ilara grinned. "Not chaos, creativity." The enemy ships reacted violently, crashing into one another. Then Kale ordered the flagship's cannons to focus on the largest cluster. A massive explosion sent shockwaves across the battlefield. "Keep going," Ilara shouted, her voice rising over alarms and communications. "Divide them, confuse them, and strike where they aren't expecting." The Xylar followed her commands, imperfectly at first, but improving with each maneuver. Ships dodged, flanked, and counterattacked in ways no algorithm could predict. The human's legacy, the instinct to fight even when the odds were impossible, was alive again. Hours passed. The battlefield was a storm of fire and energy. Explosions rocked both fleets, yet the predators advanced relentlessly. It became clear that sheer strategy alone would not win this fight. Something greater was required. Ilara turned to Kyle. "We need a plan that doesn't just fight them. We need to make them think we are stronger than we are." Kyle raised an eyebrow. "Do you mean deception?" "Yes," she said. "We can't outgun them, but we can outsmart them. Humans survive by thinking differently." Kyle nodded slowly, a glimmer of respect in his eyes. "Then show me." Together they devised a plan. The Xylar fleet would appear smaller than it was, concentrating firepower at critical points while faking weakness elsewhere. Ilara instructed small ships to act as decoys, drawing the predators into traps. As the predators advanced into the ambush, they collided with energy nets, traps designed by humans centuries ago, now improved with alien technology. Massive explosions tore through their ranks. Ships that seemed invincible burned like fragile toys. Kale watched the battle unfold with awe. "You are remarkable, human. Even one of your kind changes everything." Ilara smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in years. For the first time, humanity was not just surviving. It was remembered, respected, feared even. At last, the predators retreated. Many were destroyed. The survivors fled, confused and wary. The galaxy had seen a new force rise. Not human alone, not Xylar alone, but both together. Ilara exhaled, exhaustion flooding her body. "We did it." Kale's gaze met hers. "Yes, but this is only the beginning. There will be others. Threats beyond imagining." She nodded. "Then we face them together. Humanity may be small now, but we still endure." For the first time, Kale's expression softened. "Perhaps humanity has a future after all. Perhaps I was wrong to believe your kind's extinction was inevitable." Ilara felt a strange pride. Not for herself, but for her species. The one that refused to bow. That survived despite overwhelming odds, that fought even when it seemed hopeless. Days later, the Emperor summoned her to the observation deck. From the massive window, she could see the galaxy stretched before her. stars, planets, and distant nebulae sparkling in silence. "You have changed me," Kale said quietly, "and perhaps you have changed the galaxy as well." Ilara tilted her head. "I didn't do it alone." "No," he agreed, "but it began with you, the last human, standing in the face of centuries of domination, refusing to die quietly. You have reminded me that strength is not just power, it is will." Her heart swelled. Humanity's story was not over. One life had endured, and in doing so, it reminded the galaxy that even the smallest spark could ignite a fire. Kale looked at her with respect, and for the first time, Ilara felt something she had not felt since Earth fell: hope. She was the last human, but she was not alone. Humanity's legacy would survive through her, and through the choices she made in the years to come. The Emperor extended a clawed hand. "You will not return to your old life. There is work to do. Together we will prepare for what comes next." Ilara took his hand, shaking it firmly. "Then let's make sure the galaxy never forgets humans again." Kyle's eyes gleamed. "No, it will not forget. Not while you walk among the stars." And so, a new chapter began, one in which humans, though few, could shape the future alongside the mightiest empire the galaxy had ever known. The last human had become more than a survivor. She had become a symbol, and the galaxy would remember.